Jesus Christ did exist, man. There's a lot of people arguing. I see it on the Twitter as well. I just saw this video. Yo, denying prophets. You see what I'm saying? Like, these are prophets. Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Abraham, and they came one after another by the grace of God and by his decisions only. And that's what I believe. I'm a Muslim, so I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in Abraham. I believe in my religion, Islam, and Islam talks about all these figures that came before, you know what I'm saying? The prophets were sent by God, and we just don't believe that Jesus Christ is God. We don't believe that God could take the body of a human being. The Muslims, they will say that we don't idolize anything, we don't worship nothing, there's just one God that's up there and we don't have a figure. But every year there's Hajj. All the Muslims, we go to Saudi Arabia and we are circling this black stone named Kaaba. I did that. I did Umrah. I went to Saudi Arabia. I did that. A lot of people on my Instagram, you saw a couple of videos I posted. It was a special moment for me. And you could feel it, bro. The Muslims sticking together and forming a unity, forming a bond, and just going through this journey that the prophets and their wives went through. That's what Hajj is. That's what Umrah is. That's what I did. When I went to Saudi Arabia, you follow a certain procedure. There's Safa Marwa that you get to run, symbolic of what the prophets went through. They had to run for water. It is a beautiful experience, man. Each religion has traditions. And am I the greatest Muslim ever? No. Do I follow everything in the religion? No. I'm a rapper. I make music. That shit's not, that shit don't fly in Islam. You're not supposed to be a rapper. You're not supposed to be that musically aligned. Music is looked down upon. A lot of people say it's haram. A lot of people say you can't do music. But there's a lot of other people who say it's makruh. You could do it, but it's bad. It's looked down upon. It's not advice. Jesus Christ was mentioned for the first time 20 years after his death. A lot of historical religious figures, their timelines are kind of weird. Even about my prophet, Muhammad, right? The Islamic prophet. His storyline is described in a lot of different ways by a lot of different people during his time. The Sahabis or the Sahabas, his followers obviously describe him in a certain way. There's other books to describe him as a warlord. Me being a Muslim, I believe that Prophet Muhammad was instructed by God to do those certain things, to marry an underage girl because he had to protect these women. That's why he did those marriages. But nowadays, a lot of these weirdos are using that excuse to just ruin their perfectly perfect relationships and weddings just to marry 2 more or 3 more women. And that's out of lust. That's not out of saving no women. You're not saving nobody. You're doing that out of your own personal interest. That's what most of these guys are doing. And a lot of my uncles have 3, 4 marriages, 2, 3 marriages. And that's just what it is. Shit happens. That's what they say. And then they blame it on Islam. Prophet Muhammad's teachings and his way of life is very different from a regular man's way of life now, bro. Everybody's engaged in hedonism. Everybody's addicted to the social media, to drugs, to dumb shit, to, fucking around. And we can't even come close to someone like the Prophet Muhammad, man. Moses was mentioned a lot later than his real existence. So whatever time he existed in, he was mentioned 1,000 years later. Somebody could have made it up. That's what this dude is saying. That's kind of weird, though. That is, that's a good argument. But now this guy is saying whoever wrote about Jesus, the guy who wrote about Jesus the first time, this dude named Paul, I don't know, he just mentioned it. That's 20 years later, 20 years after Jesus Christ died. Jesus Christ had a brother? Hell no. I didn't even know that. So this dude, Paul, who supposedly wrote the first Bible, who mentioned Jesus for the first time, Christian preachers, Muslim preachers, Jewish preachers, right? And the preachers and the teachers are the ones who mess up their religion. That's it, man. I'm out.